Hi, this is Kaitlin Seto from Seto Viola, and I am so excited for what I'm going to share with you today. We're going to go through my practice warm-up sheet. Now, warming up is something that's really important to do every day. You got to get your body moving. You have to get your fingers limber. You have to get your bow hand really flexible and smooth even before you really get into your practice session for the day. So warming up, I would say like 15 to 20 minutes every day before you start playing, either doing open strings or doing some left hand patterns. That's really gonna set you up for a great practice session every single day. So I would aim for that, about 15 to 20 minutes. Now with this warm-up sheet that I made basically all the warm-ups that I've been using for the last like 10 years or so, and I just always come back to them. So I'm going to be sharing them with you today, starting off with my open string exercises. We'll do some string crossings, bow strokes, and then for the left hand, we'll do different patterns. I love doing broken thirds. I love doing broken fourths. I love doing these different patterns. You could even do broken fifths and broken sixths. You could do octaves. You could do anything. Be creative with your warm-up, with your practice session. This sheet is just meant to give you some ideas. Now, would I do all of these at once? No. I would pick one or two of these, and I would really focus in on those for like a week at a time. So when you're going through, don't just go through the motions. Use this time to make your technique the best it could be. This is your opportunity to spend time acquainting yourself with the instrument, to learn the fingerboard better than ever before, to get your vibrato seamless between every single note, and to get your string crossings really nice and smooth. So with that being said, we'll go through the warm-up sheet, but remember, you're not going to do all of these at once. You're going to pick and choose. You might even just use this as kind of a guideline, and you might change some of the patterns, or you might add in your own little element to make it a great warm-up for you. So let's start from the top. I'll play through the string crossings and bow strokes first. Now with both of these, I'm going to set my metronome to 60. It's not something I'll ever like change the tempo of. I just want to have a really nice standard bass line, and 60 is a great tempo to play this at. So I'm going to start with this. Remember, we're aiming for really nice smooth bow changes, and to make sure that your strings are really speaking, they're really vibrating on all the string crossings. So let's get started. So that's the string crossing ones. If you wanted to be a little creative with that one too, try going from the last measure, the smallest subdivisions, backwards. So we'll start on the sixes, and we'll then do the fives and then the fours. I'll just do a few of them. see how that works. Going faster with the subdivisions is one thing, but being able to slow it down from the faster subdivisions to the then slower subdivisions is a whole nother ballgame. So I would do this exercise in both directions, frontwards, and I would even try to read it backwards, starting from the last measure and then the measure before the last measure. I think that's just a lot of fun. And then the bow strokes, I would set this on 60 as well. Practice at frog, middle, and tip. These instructions can go for all of the measures except for the slurred measures because we're going to be using multiple parts of our bow for those. So just keep that in mind. What I'll do is for the first two, I'll play them at the frog and we'll just see how it goes. So let me just play the first two bars and then we'll just jump around because we don't have to do this all at once. Remember, we're creative with our practice. Treat the dotted notes in a couple different ways. That way I use my arm, but you could also try doing more of a finger stroke like this and get those muscles working. I think that this is a very interesting exercise, so you could always try that as well. The legato, thinking of really smooth string cross or smooth bow changes. So you're not accenting the bow changes, you're just really starting. You're getting the string spinning and then you get all this resonance. So try not to punch too much at the beginning of the note. Really capture the string and get it spinning. And that's how you're going to get a really nice legato. You could try this at the tip too. It's really, really interesting. You could go even back and forth. So the first try before you do the repeat. And then you could go to the tip for the repeat. There's so many varieties of things that you could try. You could pick and choose which measures you want to do. So it's just have a lot of fun with these ones. So let's actually jump ahead to the broken thirds and broken fourths, just because I could go on forever on the bow strokes. We could spend all day on them. So just make sure that you're really subdividing. Make sure that you're really grabbing the string if you're doing anything that's off the string. So you're always starting from on the shorter notes like that. So start from the string. This is something that maybe would be a really good skill to practice with this exercise with these bow strokes. So just keep that in mind as you go too. Let's do some of the broken thirds and some of the broken fourths. So this I really love just to get my finger patterns moving so that I really get acquainted with the fingerboard. You could do this with a drone, but I'm not going to do it with a drone right now. If you're not used to these patterns, go really slow, but I'm just going to go at a really nice, moderate, friendly, lovely tempo. And the same with the broken fourths. These patterns are a little bit harder doing the broken fourths, reaching for those fourth fingers, reaching across a lot more string crossings. So just make sure that your string crossings are still smooth and that your patterns are just really defined. You're really putting your fingers down in a nice ploppy motion so that you have great left hand articulation. All right, isn't that lovely? It's such a great way to just get acquainted with your fingerboard for the day. You could do broken fifths, you could do broken sixths, you could do broken sevenths, you could do octaves, just whatever patterns. Just really spend some time to get acquainted with that fingerboard. And if you could get a nice vibrato consistently on all these patterns, that's even better. So the last one, the double stops, it's the hardest one, but it doesn't need to be the hardest one. The way that we use our bows sometimes could make double stops either easier or more challenging. So let's see if we could use the bow to make it a little bit easier. When you're doing these double stops, you're going to start, and this actually helps you kind of acquaint yourself with the string crossings. You're going to start on the lower note. When you go back to do the double stop, don't feel like you have to push both of the strings down. The strings are already spinning. They're already going. Just make sure that you're getting a nice spin on the bottom note as you are changing into the double stops. If you have a hard time making it back over to the lower string, just adjust your angle. So don't ever feel like you have to press down harder, but change the angle, and that'll change the balance of the sound without you having to work any harder. So just make sure that you have a nice balance with your bow and that you don't feel stuck with your bow. If you do feel stuck, just move it a little faster and you'll be surprised at how quickly it unstucks itself. So let's try the double stops one. Remember, it's all about the balance of the bow. This is going to make it easier for you to play your double stops. Always lean into the bottom note, but don't push down on either notes. So don't feel bad if you can't play that and make it sound really nice the first time. I have been playing this warm-up. I've been doing this warm-up for like a decade. So if this is your first time trying to do this warm-up, especially as you're climbing up the string, don't feel bad if it's not sounding really nice. You've got a decade to work it out. So what I would do is just focus more on the bow than you expect, because the bow will make the sound balanced or unbalanced depending on what you do with it. So just make sure that you're not feeling like you have to push the sound down at all, but just get the lower note, get the lower string spinning. So you want that resonance. You want to make sure the lower note is ringing, and then add in the higher note. And the way that this exercise is written out helps you do that because it's already separated. So if you could feel like the bottom note's spinning really nicely, you're getting a nice ring out of the bottom note, all you have to do is float the top note. You don't have to add any more pressure or any more weight onto the string. And I think that's one of the big pitfalls with double stops, is you feel like I'm on two strings, I have to put down twice the amount of pressure. Not at all, not at all. You're just gonna get the bottom note spinning, you're gonna float the top, and that's gonna make your double stops so much easier. Now with the actual tuning and the shifting, take a lot of time to work that out. You're gonna have to spend a lot of time figuring out the blend of the notes. And when you shift, what I would do is I would spend some time between the shifts, maybe not playing for a second, finding the shift, and then adding that next note in. So that's my practice sheet. You don't have to use all these warm-ups all the time. I go in phases. I'll do one warm-up on some weeks. I'll do another warm-up on other weeks. I think I did the broken thirds before orchestra rehearsals. I would play broken thirds on stage before rehearsal started. I think I did that for like 6 months straight. And that was my warm-up for like 6 months. And that was the only thing I did. But I did it for like 10 minutes, just really felt good about it. And then sometimes you could add in other things. You could mix and match. You could do different bow strokes. So don't go through all the bow strokes in order, but pick a couple of those bow strokes and work on those each day. So I'll leave you with that. Visit my website, setoviola.com, and see the free resources page where you can find this practice warm-up sheet for yourself. And I really hope that you find some, well, maybe not joy, but you find some use out of it, and it really helps you just spend that time to get acquainted with your instrument. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll make more. So I really look forward to seeing you all for the next ones.